Hi, I'm Kendrick Thompson, and I'd like to invite you to join us on another fascinating venture through the world of hand-fabricated jewelry design on the Goldsmith. On this episode, we're going to fabricate a semi-bezel mounting for a large fancy-cut lemon beryl out of 18-karat green gold. To start, 2 ring blanks are formed from 18-karat green stock. As you probably know, here on the Goldsmith, we mill all of our own stock, sheet, and wire by hand to ensure quality and to tailor the alloy to the desired specifications. Also important to note is that green gold is not really green, but greenish. You may have seen gold that was green in some proprietary brand name multicolored gold fashion rings. Truth is, though, that these bright green colors of gold are usually plated. There are some that are true solid green alloys, but these are usually too brittle to be suited for milling and usually appear in cast pieces. After a small point of attachment at what will be the bottom of the ring, the 2 ring blanks are spread apart and a temporary cross member is installed until the design is fabricated to reinforce the shape. Next, the semi-bezel ends are shaped to the stone. When shaping the semi-bezel ends, hold the stone to the stock and mark the corner points with a scribe. Using a saw blade, we cut a shallow groove across the stock. Then, depending on the angle of the desired bend, a square or sometimes triangle needle file is run through the groove a few times to produce a valley or trough across the stock. The stock is bent to the desired angle as the valley is closed together, then flown with solder. Small notches are cut into the bottom of each of the semi-bezel ends, first with a saw blade, then widened with a wheel burr. Be sure that your wheel burr has no bite on the sides, only the edge, for a clean measured notch. These notches will serve as the point of attachment to the ring blank sides. 18-karat yellow hard solder is used throughout the entire fabrication of this piece, though a 20-karat white weld is typically preferred when we join anything higher than 10-karat metal. Green gold can be a little tricky. Using the same stock as the ring blanks and the cross member, we round one end on the mandrel, then file the tip to a point that will be acute enough to fit between the ring blanks at the point they attach to each other. A couple of strategic bends later, the other end of this newly attached piece of stock can be attached to the semi-bezel mounting. We repeat this process on the opposite side of the ring. Now that the entire piece as a single unit has some structural integrity, we can drop it on the mandrel and pound it to a truly round shape. The softness of the 18-karat alloy is important here because, as you will discover, the 2 ring blanks attached at a single point, then spread apart, do not actually produce a round shape. It's more of an oval, so it must be encouraged to be round inside and fit flush to the mandrel. A hole is drilled only about 1 millimeter deep at the same height on each of the 4 ends of the semi-bezel. This is to seat a decorative wire attachment to the opposing bezel and to the shank. A couple more decorative wire attachments are made, and there is finally enough strength to remove the temporary cross member. A few holes are measured, marked, and drilled through the semi-bezels. Through these holes, we will thread wire and fuse it from the inside to produce a clean, flush look on almost an Art Deco style design. A few more holes, a few more wires, and a few more strategic bends and careful attachments, and our mounting is beginning to take shape as a piece of finer wire is wrapped around a small section of the shank, producing a non-functional, totally aesthetic design. Setting the ring aside for a few moments, perhaps to pickle, we take a piece of wire or the temporary cross member and melt it into a roundish piece of shot on the hot block. After a few strikes with a chasing hammer, it becomes fairly flat with edges that can be gripped by the flats of the mill. The piece is milled to a flat, thin sheet, which is centrally positioned at the point the 2 blanks attach, and is then riveted to the shank. To rivet, we drill a hole at the point of attachment and in the center of the sheet. A wire is melted to a ball on one end, and then fed through the sheet and the shank. Now the inside end of the wire is melted into a ball. Gentle and carefully monitored flame is now applied to each of the ball ends while being directed away from the shank and especially the sheet. If this is done correctly, and it might require some practice on a piece of scrap, then the ball ends will collapse into a melt that will fuse to the surrounding surface, producing a perfectly sealed rivet. Several more rivets are added, and the sheet is ready to be trimmed to the shank. The rivets are removed from the inside of the shank and finished smoothly. On the outside, however, they are merely reduced and cleaned up with a cut burr and left as part of the design. The last few untouched sections of the ring are decorated with a scribe to produce a detailed, somewhat pointillistic texture. A beading tool is used to produce a design on the sides of the shank. The ring is then heat treated to replace some of the hardness lost to the annealing temperatures of soldering. The inside of the setting is polished and prepared for the stone. With such detail, a thorough polish is essential to the successful final product. The stone is set, the ring is polished again, and then delivered to another delighted customer along with this detailed description of the manufacturing process. Please join us again as we take another interesting journey through the processes of fabricating a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry art. Thanks for your participation with the Goldsmith.
What am I gonna feed the demons hungry for my soul?